السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين وتابعيهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, today it is Sunday, the 9th of al-Muharram, 1444, and this matches the 7th of August 2022. This is our session number 106, going through this book, the Elixir, the digest of the book Madaarij as-Salikeen by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim. This is our second session regarding this station that is the station of al-Hayaah, or life. Yesterday, Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he spoke about the ayah, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ. Is he who was dead, then we gave him life? Is he like the one who is in the darknesses, who will never exit from those darknesses? And he mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jal is by dead here is not talking about the dead body, but then it is a dead soul that was given life by the revelation, and that the revelation in the Quran is called Ruh, spirit, because it brings life, and it is called also Nur because it guides and lights up the way. So he mentioned then what he means by this life, al-Hayaah al-Tayyibah, the good life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants the believers, the good life that is based upon believing in Allah, loving Him, and always remembering Him subhanahu wa ta'ala and obeying Him. This is what the believers are given. The opposite of that is al-Hayat al-Dank, Hayat al-Dank, and that is the difficult type of a life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He will give the one who turns away from His remembrance subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. Right? He will have a life that is a life of difficulty and hardship. He said that this good life, or the bad and evil life or living, right? It will be in the three types of homes: the worldly life, the life of al-Barzakh, the grave, and the life after the day of judgment. For the believers and the disbelievers, they will go through either good life or a tough type of a life. Then he started talking about the different types of life. So he spoke about the earth, the land, giving life by the grass and vegetables and plants growing in it. That's one type of a life. Another type of a life is the life of growing and being nourished, right? And this is shared by plants and animals. The other type of life is the life that is more than just being fed and nourished. It's the life where you start feeling, you have senses, and you start moving about, right? This is for the living creatures, the animals in specific. Then you have another type of the life, or another level of living, which is the life of the living creature that is not being fed or nourished. And he said this is like the life of the angels, and alayhimus salam, and like the life of the souls, after death, after they depart from the bodies. The life of the souls after they depart from the body is actually a higher type of a life. It doesn't need food or drink. Then he mentioned the life of knowledge, right, compared to the death of ignorance. and this one is really summarized maybe at the end of the يعني, station, at the end of this station of al-Hayaah. Maybe we'll go back to it and get some glimpses, because we need this discussion about life due to having knowledge, as opposed to death due to being ignorant, right? The next type of life, or a level of a life, hayatul irada wal himma wal mahabba, the life based on will, ambition or aspiration, and love, right? He said that the good life, al-Hayaah al-Tayyiba, the good life, al-Hayat al-Tayyiba, it can only be attained, it can only attained by it can only be attained by having high ambitions and aspirations. Himma aliyah, you have to have true love, mahabba sadiqa, and you have to have sincere will. And then he mentioned his lines of poetry, then the lines of poetry of Al-Imam Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, talking about يعني, sins cause the hearts to die, and if you want to be alive, stay away from sins. Stay away from sins. As he mentioned before, you want your heart to be alive, continuously remember Allah and stay away from committing sins. And then he mentioned the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, which is sort of like a ruqya, let's say, a ruqya for your heart to stay alive, right? For your heart to stay alive, right? Or having life, right? And he said to say, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum La ilaha illa ant, 40 times between the Sunnah of Fajr and the Farida of Fajr. And I did mention that this is not like a recommended Sunnah or anything. There's no hadith for this. Although, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, those two names of Allah, many scholars say they are them combined, they are al-Ism al-A'zam, the greatest name of Allah. Right? And they say al-Hayaah, al-Hayy, the living, this includes within it all the personal attributes of Allah, sifatu dhatillah, right? While al-Qayyum, the one who maintains everybody, and he doesn't need anyone to maintain him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is self-subsisting. The Qayyum, the one who maintains, subhanahu wa ta'ala, includes all of it, all of the attributes of Allah in terms of the actions that he's doing, that providing, and so on and so forth, the actions that he does, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why they say al-Hayyul Qayyum. They are this is the name, the greatest name of Allah, Ismullah al-A'zam, right? And it is found in some of the ahadith, right? يعني asking Allah and imploring him through his these two names. And La ilaha illa ant is at-Tawheed, is one of the best means of getting closer to Allah. So if someone says this and does not take it as a sunnah, right? Does not take it as a sunnah, and also specifying specific time and a specific place, or right? If it's done once in a while, Allah knows best, it may be okay. There are scholars who say, well, يعني the statements of the scholars, يحتج لها ولا يحتج بها. You bring evidence for them, you don't use them themselves as evidence, and we don't have evidence for something like this. But other scholars, they said it, they take it from the aspect of يعني not being a regular sunnah, but it is like using it for a healing, right? and without claiming that this is a specific sunnah or a specific hadith. So if it's used once in a while, it is something that is okay, and there is more discussion. I was planning to go deep into discussing this one because you will find different statements, different discussions about that. But we are sufficed with what is found in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. This always takes precedence. It always supersedes anybody else's statement, regardless of how great that scholar is, from the companions, the tabi'un, the atba'ut tabi'un, the four imams, Imam ibn Taymiyyah, Imam ibn al-Qayyim, all of them, we seek proofs for what they say. So having that established, inshallah, it is okay to go through discussing issues like this, right? And those issues, they should not bring, chaos and fighting and labeling each other as a deviant and as this and as that. Regardless, in the end, alhamdulillah, we are Muslims. We have Quran, we have Sunnah, we have Sahaba to follow, radiallahu anhum. We have scholars that we also glimpse or take a glimpse from their knowledge how to understand the Quran and the Hadith. But then what overrides everybody is kalamullah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what is established by the scholars. Many times, what is agreed upon will be sufficient. But then those issues that where there is give and take, that's where the people will fight, and some choose to make them a big fight, and would be willing to divide the ummah because of them. So we should not be taking that route, right? And there are, I've seen statements from our great scholars of our time. They say, well, this one is a mistake, we don't take it from them and move on. Not like now those scholars become a cloud on their head and a question mark and maybe and fighting over that is not suitable. So anyhow, I wish that the summarizers of this book, maybe they spared us the discussion of this, right, by just not putting it, because it's a summary after all. But alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them for the summary, the digest that they have offered us. طيب. He says, وَالْغَفْلَةُ الْجَاثِمَةُ عَلَى الْقَلْبِ. This heedlessness, the negligence that is jathima, that is sweeping over, that is taking over, reigning over the heart. وَالتَّعَلُّقُ بِالرَّذَائِلِ وَالشَّهَوَاتِ الْمُنْقَطِعَةِ عَنْ قُرْبٍ. And for one to be hooked up and attached so much to the evils and the lusts and the desires that will end very soon, right? For the heart to be heedless, negligent, and to be attached to desires so much, يضعف هذه الحياة. This will weaken this life, the life of the heart, right? This life. ولا يزال الضعف. So what will give you strong life, right, is, he mentioned, al-dhikr, remembrance of Allah, and staying away from sins. Now he says, ghafla, negligence that will override the heart, wal'iyadhu billah, and also being attached to lowly matters and lusts and desires that will end up soon. Those desires that will يعني soon finish and end, يعني those they will weaken this life. ولا يزال الضعف يتوالى عليه حتى يموت. And the weakness will continue to happen. يعني weakness will continue to go on and subsist, and you get weaker and weaker up until one will die, right? The heart will die. وعلامة موته, the sign of the death of the heart, أنه لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا, that the heart will not even recognize the good and will not shun and reject the evil. كما قال عبد الله بن مسعود, as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud رضي الله عنه said, أتدرون من ميت الأحياء? Do you know who is the dead amongst the living people? الذي, then he answered saying, الذي قيل فيه, the one whom it is said about him, this line of poetry, ليس من مات فاستراح بميت, the one who died and he achieved rest and comfort by dying, he's not the one who is actually dead. إنما الميت ميت الأحياء, the one who is truly dead is the one who is dead although he is from the living, right? The dead of the living people. The one who died and passed away, he's not really the one who died, who rested, يعني rested in peace, right? The truly dead is the one who is the dead amongst those who are alive. قالوا ومن هو? They said, and who is this one who is dead although he is from the living people? He said, الذي لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا, the one who does not recognize good and he does not reject evil, right? So يعني for one to command good and forbid evil, he has to have a step before that. His heart has to recognize the good to being good, as being good, and the evil as being evil. If he doesn't even have that, how can he command and forbid, right? That's why there is another statement also from him radiallahu anhu, that it was said in front of him, هلك من لم يأمر بالمعروف وينكر المنكر, the one who does not command evil, command good and forbid evil, he has been destroyed, he is destroyed. He heard someone saying this, so he commented on that, Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, saying, هلك من لم يعرف بقلبه, the one who does not recognize with his heart the good from the evil, and the good to be good and the evil to be evil, is the one who is truly destroyed, right? So there is a step before you command and forbid. You command good and forbid evil. A step before that is for you at least to know and recognize what is good and what is bad. He said, والرجل هو الذي يخاف موت قلبه, the man, يعني the true man, the one who has real manhood, is the one who fears the death of his heart. لا موت بدنه, not the one who fears the death of his body. إذ أكثر هذا الخلق يخافون موت أبدانهم, for the majority, most of the creation, they fear the death of their bodies. ولا يبالون بموت قلوبهم, and they don't care about the death of their hearts. ولا يعرفون من الحياة إلا الحياة الطبيعية, they don't know from life except the just regular natural life. وذلك من موت القلب والروح, they recognize just the normal living, you are alive, you're not dead. That's what they recognize, not this special life, right? The life of dhikr and staying away from disobediences. He said, and that, and the fact that majority or the most of the people, they only recognize the normal, regular life, natural life. ذلك من موت القلب والروح, that is due to the death of the heart and the soul. فإن هذه الحياة الطبيعية شبيهة بالظل الزائل. فإن هذه الحياة الطبيعية شبيهة بالظل الزائل. For this natural worldly life resembles the shade that is vanishing. You know how the shade, and it comes and goes, right? Depends on where the sun is, right? The worldly life is like that. It's transient, right? It just moves on, right? والنبات السريع الجفاف. The natural normal life resembles the plant that is going to dry out very quickly, as in the Quran. ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا. Right? It dries out and you see it turning yellow. It was so green and beautiful. And then it dries out and now it's so yellow. Right? That's the natural, the regular, the normal life that we live. Right? And that is the reality. You live 50, 30, 60, 70 years and it's gone. It's end. It ended. It ends. He said, and it also resembles والمنام والمنام الذي يخيل لرائيه أنه حقيقة. Manam is a dream which it is imagined to the one who sees that dream. He imagines it's real, it's a reality, right? فإذا استيقظ عرف أنه كان خيالا. When he wakes up, he recognizes, he knows that it was just an imagination, right? كما قال عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. As Umar ibn al-Khattab رضي الله عنه said, this statement has passed before, right? The beautiful statement, it says, لو أن الحياة الدنيا من أولها إلى آخرها أوتيها رجل واحد. If the worldly life from its beginning to its end, the whole worldly life was given to just one man. Imagine the whole life from Adam alayhi salatu wasalam up until the day of judgment, the worldly life, right, was given to one man, right? He says, ثم جاءه الموت, then death comes to him. لكان بمنزلة من رأى في منامه ما يسره ثم استيقظ. It will be like the one who saw in his dream something that is delightful, something that made him happy. And then he woke up. فإذا ليس في يده شيء. And then all of a sudden, there is nothing in his hand. Right? This is the example of the worldly life. So that was the level number 6 of the Hayaah, of the living, or the type of a life. Hayaah that is based, life that is based on will, ambition, and love, loving for Allah Azza wa Jal, right? You want Allah, you have the aspiration and the ambition, the zeal to obey Him, to worship Him, to remember Him, and to love Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have that, you will have the good life, and that is based on continuous remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal and staying away from committing sins. As for the case when someone is overtaken by ghafla, by heedlessness, by negligence, right, and by being attached to the worldly pleasures, right, this is now the cause for the death happening to the heart and the death happening to the soul. How do you know that you died, right? You have a dead heart, or you have a dead soul. You will not recognize the good to be good. You do not recognize the evil to be evil. So you do not command what is good, and you do not forbid what is evil. He says the true man, the real man, the one who has manhood, is the one who fears for the death of his heart and soul. Otherwise, the majority of those living humans, they only care about the natural life. They only care about their soul not departing from the body. That's what they care about. But this life is nothing, actually. It's transient, it's very quickly going on. It's just like a dream, right? It's just like a dream. طيب. المرتبة السابعة, the seventh level of life. The seventh level of life is in مراتب الحياة حياة الأخلاق, the life based on morals, الأخلاق, والصفات المحمودة, and the praiseworthy qualities. فحياة من قد طبع على الحياء والعفة, so the life of the one who is natured, right, who is given this quality of حياء, shyness or modesty, والعفة and chastity, والجود والسخاء and open-handedness and generosity, والمروءة dignified behavior, والصدق truthfulness, والوفاء faithfulness. The one who has those morals, ونحوها and their likes, أتم من حياة من يقهر نفسه. He has a life, the one who has those morals, his life is more perfect and complete than the one who is compelling himself. ويغالب طبعه. He is in a constant fight. He's battling with his nature, right? حتى يكون كذلك, so that he will be like that. Right? So there is someone who is generous. It's easy for him to be generous. It's easy for him to be chaste, right? Not to want to have what others have, not to take away what they have, right? The one who is brave, right? شجاع, brave, right? His life is more perfect than the one who is struggling to have those qualities, right? So there is one who has them already. He has a better life than the one who is struggling to have them, right? طيب. وكلما كانت هذه الأخلاق في صاحبها أكمل, the more those morals are perfect and complete in the one who has them, he has more perfect generosity, more perfect bravery, more perfect chastity, because this is now levels. The people are not one and the same having those morals, right? The more perfect you have that quality, your life will be better. He says كانت حياته أقوى وأتم. His life will be more powerful, more strong, and more perfect and complete. ولهذا, it is for this reason, كانت حياة الشجاع أكمل من حياة الجبان. The life of the brave and courageous is more perfect than the life of the coward. وحياة السخي أكمل من حياة البخيل. And the life of the generous person is more perfect and complete than the life of the stingy person, right? So that is number 7, the life of morals, the life of husnul khuluq, the good quality, the good character, right? The life of having morals, right? Based on having morals and praiseworthy qualities. طيب. المرتبة الثامنة. He has 10, by the way, 10 levels of life. 10 levels of life, right? حياة الفرح والسرور وقرة العين بالله. The life of happiness, delight, happiness and delight, and قرة العين, the coolness of the eye. يعني satisfaction with Allah. You're satisfied with Allah عز وجل. He says هذه المرتبة من مراتب الحياة أعلى مراتبها. This level of the types of life, or the levels of life, is the highest of its levels. ولكن but كيف يصل إليها من عقله مسبي في بلاد الشهوات. How would one achieve it? How would he achieve it? If his mind, if his intellect, his intellect is in captivity, is captivated in the land of desires, in the land of lusts. وأمله موقوف على اجتناء اللذات. His main focus, his main wish and dream is amal, is dedicated, is restrained to, is dedicated to, is stuck with achieving ijtina, achieving and picking all kinds of joys and enjoyments and desires. وسيرته جارية على أسوأ العادات. How can one achieve it if his behavior, if his lifetime, right, his conduct is based upon the worst of habits? ودينه مستهلك بالمعاصي والمخالفات. How can one achieve this high type of a life when his deen, his religion, is used up, is consumed, is drained? His religion is drained with disobediences and oppositions to the religion of Allah. وهمته واقفة مع السفليات. His ambition, his aspirations, they are actually just stuck with halting and being stuck with that which is the lowest of the low. Yani, what is your dream? What is your wish? And your, oh, to have you know, a house, a home, or a wife and a home and children. Yani, one of the famous, I've seen just lately, one of the famous non-Muslim philosophers, right? He was saying, he wonders, he says, could it be? It cannot be that all of this life that we are living is meant for work, get a job, right? Marry, have you a home and have children, and then die. Could this be? This is a non-Muslim, Maxim Gorky or something like that. I was reading it in Arabic, so I don't know how to say his name exactly in English. Right? Maxim Gorky or something like that. He said, "Could this be?" Of course, I wonder how he got this. And I'm sure maybe he read some, because some of them are good readers. Yani. They must have read something from Islamic literature, because we have this so much in. Right? That this life cannot be just like that. And even them, yani, the people of the book, a lot of statements like this about the akhirah, about asceticism, zuhd, yani, are found in the statements attributed to Jesus alayhi salatu wasalam and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, the prophets, yani, right? But then this is the case, yani. So how can you achieve this high type of a life? يعني حياة الفرح والسرور, being happy and delighted and being satisfied, complete satisfaction with Allah Azza wa Jal. How can one get it if his main goal is, just the nightclub, or that woman, or that drink, right? وعقيدته غير متلقاة من مشكاة النبوات. How can one achieve that high type of a life when his belief, his creed, is taken from other, is received from other than the niche of the prophethood, right? He's taking his beliefs not from what the prophets have taught. This person, definitely, he cannot have this high life of being satisfied with Allah Azza wa Jal. He said, فَهُوَ فِي الشَّهَوَاتِ مُنْغَمِسٌ. So he is drowned in desires, in lusts. وَفِي الشُّبُهَاتِ مُنْتَكِسٌ. He is flipped. He is relapsed, right? He's upside down into doubts and misconceptions, doubts and misconceptions. And these doubts, يعني, they go range يعني, in so many levels, to a point that the people, they have doubt in Allah. أفي الله شك. Yes, yet there are people who have doubt in Allah, right? So this person is يعني, immersed in desire, in lusts and desires, and he is flipped upside down, right? He is always, and even he heals, right? Then he relapses again into doubts and misconceptions. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And there are so many of them. There are so many of them. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. يعني, they are يعني, like a factory of misconceptions and doubts. Right? Everything, they doubt everything. Right? وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. وَعَنِ النَّاصِحِ مُعْرِض. This person is turning away from the advisor. وَعَلَى الْمُرْشِدِ مُعْتَرِض. And he is opposing the one who's guiding him, right? Finding faults in the guidance that he's being taught, right? وَعَنِ السُّرَى نَائِمٌ. السُّرَى is to travel at night time. Usually it is meant, used as an indication of laboring hard and working hard. He is sleeping. He's not working hard to achieve this high type of a life. He's sleeping. وَقَلْبُهُ فِي كُلِّ وَادٍ هَائِمٌ. His heart is straying in every valley, right? He is يعني, aimlessly traveling here and there, his heart, right? Every time he is trying something new, right? Every time he is trying something new of the worldly lusts and desires and misconceptions and doubts and ideologies. Every time he is, right, wandering in those different valleys of this life, right? فلو أنه تجرد من نفسه ورغب عن مشاركة أبناء جنسه. So if he actually frees himself from his own self, and from the captivation of his own self, and he turns away from just partnering and sharing with the children, the people of his species, يعني, just يعني, stay away from the other humans who are, يعني, you don't have to do everything like they do. Many people, they say مثل الناس, يعني, like the people, right? So they are like everybody else. So he's saying you cannot, if you cannot do that if you say I just want to be like everybody else, right? And you want to achieve this high type of a life, right? So what you need to do, he says, is to slip away from your own self, and also slip away. Don't just want to share and participate with the people of your time, the people of the same species, the other humans, right? You need to slip away from that. وخرج من ضيق الجهل إلى فضاء العلم. And he will get out from the narrowness of ignorance to the space, the vast space and arena of knowledge. ومن سجن الهوى إلى ساحة الهدى. And from the jail, the prison of desire, to the openness of the arena, of the open space of guidance. ومن نجاسة النفس إلى طهارة القدس. And coming out, having himself come out from the filth and impurity of the self to the purity of sanctity and holiness, the sanctity of yani righteousness, that is. If he does that, لرأى الإلف الذي نشأ بنشأته وزاد بزيادته وقوي بقوته وشرف عند نفسه وأبناء جنسه بحصوله. He will see that قذا في عين بصيرته وشجا في حلق إيمانه ومرضا متراميا إلى هلاكه. He says, let's go back. He says, if he does that, he leaves all kinds of, the filth of the self, just mimicking and imitating other people, leaves desires, leaves ignorance, follows knowledge, right? Then he will see the ilf. The ilf is what you get accustomed to, the habit, you are upon. You know how they raise you from a young age. If they raise you to eat too much, you spend your life, rest of your life, eating too much, unless you try to fix this, right? If they raise you from childhood playing too much, sleeping too much, right? Being careless too much, you don't care about any, you're dead, you no senses, no feelings, right? You see someone dying, it's as if you see someone laughing. It's the same, right? If this is how you've been raised and you grow up on that, that's the ilf, right? You develop those habits and customs and become part of you now. So if you leave what he's telling us to leave, the desires, the misconceptions, the doubts, the being with the people, following and leaving ignorance and following knowledge, then you will see those customs and habits that you got so much accustomed to and attached to. That's the ilf, right? Which you were raised upon. نشأ بنشأته, you were raised upon that. وزاد بزيادته, and was increased. Those habits were increased by you increasing over time of the same. وقوي بقوته, those habits and customs, they got stronger as you grew up and became stronger. You were a baby, then a child, then a teen, then a youth, then an older man. Those things, they grow. Those habits, they grow on with you. وشرف عند نفسه وأبناء جنسه بحصوله. Actually, you become, with those habits, you will gain now status. You will gain status. Status with yourself and status between the people, the humans, أبناء جنسه, the children of his own race, the other humans, right? بحصوله, right? By him achieving it. And you are accustomed that, oh, you have to study and get some sort of a degree and get a job, and that's how you gain status, right? Or by working hard and making money, and working more and making money. This is how the people are accustomed to, right? So as you grow up and those habits grow on with you, and they become even a reason why you will gain status and position within the people, right? If you do what he told us to do, right? Leave doubts and misconceptions and the following the people and doing like they do, and learn and leave the ignorance in order to achieve the high life. So those customs that were ingrained in you, right, and customs and habits, you will see them, if you now start becoming better, you will see them to be قذى في عين بصيرته. He will see them to be dirt. They resemble dirt. Those customs and habits, the bad customs and habits that you were raised upon, you will see them to be dirt in the eye of his insight. عين بصيرته. This is now being literal, really translating literally. In the eye of his eyesight, the eye of his insight. Yani you will see them as dirt that will dirty your insight. The way you should be seeing things, that's dirt. What is this? Those customs and habits, right? وشجن في حلق إيمانه. You will see them as something that will cause you pain and sadness, right? He says shajan is like a thorn in the throat of his iman. You will see those customs and habits, the bad customs and habits that you were raised upon, and they were ingrained within you, and they grew up and became stronger. As you grew up and became stronger, you will see those bad habits and customs right? You will see them as a thorn bothering you in the throat of your iman. Right? You will see them something that will infringe, will take away from your iman. وَمَرَضًا مُتَرَامِيًا إِلَى هَلَاكِهِ. He will see those habits and customs as a disease that is growing and leading to his destruction. Right? وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Right? يعني when we were too young, were we raised upon, right, يعني ذكر الله so much, reciting the Quran too much, يعني night prayer, fasting a lot, right? يعني alhamdulillah, some of us had a taste of that, a taste of that. At least the basics, maybe fasting Ramadan, Taraweeh in Ramadan, right? Maybe. Some of us maybe were not, يعني. Right? So they had other habits and other customs and other, right, things. You grow up and they grow on with you, right? Right? So this is the case. يعني some of us maybe, يعني they cannot pass a day without a cooked meal. It has to be like a cooked meal. You can't, just a piece of bread and it has to be a real, يعني, a big plate, cooked meal, right? They won't pass a day without meat and right. And this is just the food. What about the food for the soul? How many amongst us were raised upon reading and reflecting and trying to, يعني, distinguish what is bad for us from what is good? And if we did, how much of that we were practicing or we were taught to practice, right? So that is the case. If the one who wants to have this life, this high life of being happy and delighted with this closeness and satisfaction with Allah Azza wa Jal, right? يعني the one, as he said, whose mind is captivated in the land, he's a prisoner in the land of desires. His wish and aim and dream, amal, right, is just restricted and dedicated to just joys and enjoyments. He just wants to keep enjoying and enjoying, right? And his life is just based upon the worst of customs, right? His deen is consumed, his deen is يعني drained with sins and disobediences. His ambitions is just with the lowest of the low ambitions. That's what he has, right? And his belief, aqidah, is not taken from the prophethood of the prophets, and whatever the prophets taught. So, and then he went on describing him that he is completely immersed in falsehood, right? So now, if this person will divorce himself from evil and evil habits and customs and beliefs and practices and starts learning, right, and starts growing in his iman, then he will see all of those things, all of those habits that he was raised upon to be nothing but filth and dirt. Even if the people view them to be the reason why you gain high status within them, right? He will see them nothing but filth and dirt. He will see them as something that will bring him down from the real iman. He will see them as a disease that will lead to nothing but his destruction, right? فإن قلت قد أشرت إلى حياة غير معهودة بين أموات الأحياء. If you say to me now, you are pointing out to, you are alluding to a life that is an abnormal life. This life being happy with Allah, right? This life is not ordinary between أموات الأحياء. It's not ordinary between the dead amongst the living. Right? They don't recognize this life, this happy life with Allah. فهل يمكنك وصف طريقها لأصل إلى شيء من أذواقها? Can you describe then the way to it so that I will achieve, so that I will arrive at getting some of its taste, right? فقد بان لي أن ما نحن فيه من الحياة حياة بهيمية, because it has become clear to me that what we are in, the life that we are living in, is nothing but hayatun bahimiyya. It's just a beastly type of a life. It's an animalistic يعني type of a life, the life of an animal. ربما زادت علينا فيه البهائم بخلوها عن المنكرات والمنغصات وسلامة العاقبة. And maybe he says, maybe this questioner is asking now, he's saying maybe the beasts, the animals, they are actually increased, they are better, they're having a better life than us by them having a life that is free and devoid of evils. They're not disobeying Allah, the animals are not disobeying Allah, right? And maybe they have a better life than us in terms of the life being free and devoid, their life, the life of the animals, free and devoid from anything that disturbs them, anything that is spoiling and ruining their life for them, right? And that's true. The animals are enjoying, and hey, it's a good life. Eat, drink, and they don't have those pains, sadness, depression, anxiety that the humans are going through, right? So they could be leading a better life. وسلامة العاقبة, even more than that, he says, maybe their life is actually better than us in terms of the safe end that they will have, right? يعني the animals, they are not going to be punished, right? Even يعني وإذا الوحوش حشرت, as in the Quran, right? And they will be gathered on the day of judgment. All the animals will be gathered on the day of judgment, yes. And even justice will be served. You know, as in one of the authentic ahadith, the the sheep, the animal, the horned one, right, that hit another one, Allah will be just and fair to the one that was hit, right? The one that doesn't have a horn, it will hit the one that has, right? But then in the end, they will be told, كونوا ترابا, يعني, be dust. And that's when the disbeliever will say, يا ليتني كنت ترابا, as in the end of Surah عما يتساءلون. I wish I was dust. I wish I was like those animals who turn to dust, right? Because he will not be turned into dust. They will be taken to the fire. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So maybe the beastly, the animal type of a life is even better in terms of a good end, no punishment at least. Right? So describe to me, tell me about this life. Right? He says, قلت, I say then, since you asked me this question, لعمر الله إن اشتياق القلب إلى هذه الحياة, surely that your heart is longing and yearning, is being inquisitive, wants to know about this life, وطلب علمها ومعرفتها, wanting to know it and recognize it, لدليل على حياته. This is a proof that your heart is alive, because you're asking what will lead to my heart becoming alive. So this shows that your heart has life, وأنه ليس من جملة الأموات, and that you are not from the ones who are from the general people who are the dead amongst the living, the dead amongst the living people. Because you're asking, how can I revive my heart and have a life that is happy with Allah? This shows that you have a good heart that has some life in it, right? So فأول طريقها, so the first of The first thing on this way is, inshallah, that's what we will do tomorrow, inshallah, because we have, almost going on for 1 hour. I will stop here, inshallah. And tomorrow we will know more details about this good life, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.